Good morning, guys. Welcome in. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Welcome in. Big TJ, Burmy, Charles, Apri, Ali. How's everybody doing? It's a nice Tuesday morning. Let me get my devices charged before my camera dies. Let me get this plugged back in. Get my laptop in as well. Welcome in. Welcome. Some really good levels yesterday. Some actually very nice session, right? Monday session, really nice session. Felt good to have that price action. Last week it was, ups and downs, battles. Monday was a nice start to the week, so happy for that. Today is a market holiday, but the market's open. It's just the banks are closed. Okay, so if you have cash accounts this morning, they will not be cleared. Okay, because assuming you use the funds on Monday session. Welcome in, guys. The market's open though. I think it's just the bond market closure and the banks are closed. That's all it is. But the market is very much so open this session. It may be a lower volume session though, because banks being closed, you could see some lower volume and maybe not some clear moves this session. All right. So, guys, welcome in. It's Tuesday. It's November the 11th. In this morning, we have some things happening. Okay. Obviously, some things have happened yesterday. Some big moves, some big downside, some big upside. I mean, the upside move. Wow, yesterday. What an incredible move going into our close yesterday. So, absolutely insane. And we are going to discuss this today's session. Rodney, you have your biggest day yesterday. I appreciate the game. Rodney, that's awesome, man. That's all you. You should be very proud. You should be very happy. That is awesome. And there's going to be more. The best part about having a big day is there can always be bigger days, right? So that's awesome. But congratulations. All right, so let's dive into it, guys. Some big things happening. We're going to go over what's happening here on the SPY chart. SPY 680, major pivot. SPY 678, major pivot. We're going to talk about the new levels forming today here on the SPY chart. We're going to go over the QQQ chart today. Q's also some clarity here, right? Some decent clarity going into our session. 618.50 maintained yesterday, and that was your demand zone, and we're going to talk about that demand today. We're also going to go over what's happening here on our individual equities. We'll start off with Tesla. Tesla's also kind of interesting this morning. Why? Because Tesla was weak yesterday. It didn't really move it did actually reclaim the 440, right? So that was something that did happen, but it was relatively weak off the open. It reclaimed the 440, saw some upside, but we are actually weak still in the pre-market session. We're still at that key level from yesterday, and our thesis on Tesla being relatively weak against the market is actually still holding to be true. So we're going to discuss Tesla today for potential downside moves, right? Either upside above the 450s, but more than likely downside onto the 440s today as a key pivot. And obviously you could see yesterday's weakness right off the gate under 440. We reclaimed 440, but now we're right at 440. So some big things to discuss going into our Tesla morning. Okay, we'll go over AMD. AMD was a top watch yesterday, and we just did a really good job on this one. I was really happy with how we executed this. We didn't get the first breakout candle, and that was something I really wanted to be. I was cognizant yesterday of not being the first person to be in a trade. Like I didn't want to be. I don't want to be the first person to the party, right? I want to wait for some strong clarity, and once I have that clarity, I execute. Remember, I said, guys, well, all we're doing is basically giving you guys the levels, and then all we're doing is executing it on the intraday timeframes and seeing if we get that confirmation. Well, where was your confirmation at AMD yesterday? Well, it was right here, right? It was these two candles back to back, showing you what? Showing you a dance, right? It was a song and a dance above the 243s, and then that was your entry, so that you got the upside move after that, right? So nice trade yesterday at AMD. We'll talk about what we can do today here at AMD going into our Tuesday morning. We'll go over Nvidia as well. Nvidia also displayed some strength yesterday. So, and this is what I'm saying, like Tesla displayed some weakness, but Nvidia some strength. So we'll talk about Nvidia today's session here. The 195 very clear pivot. We'll go over some other names as well. SMH being a big one. We'll go over Apple as well. Apple, Amazon, and Meta as top watches. Okay, so guys, let's move on. Let's dive into our econ data, earnings reports, and then we'll jump into our key levels. Big head Brett, yes, absolutely. Let's fix that. There you go. So now we are appropriately sized on the screen. On the chart for this Tuesday morning, we have no data. The reason why there's no data is because it is a holiday, right? It is a bank holiday, and there is typically no data on these bank holidays. Now, what this could mean for us, though, is it could mean that there is lower volume today's session. I want you guys to all be aware of that going into our Tuesday. The fact that because of the bank holiday, we could see lower volume, right? Now, Wednesday session, things become spicy. And then Thursday and Friday, things become very spicy. Okay, so extreme spice here Thursday, Friday. Some hot peppers over there Thursday and Friday. Okay, we have CPI, we have jobless claims, and we have PPI on demand. We have a lot of data on Thursday and a lot of data on Friday. Now we are also the government's still closed, right? I mean, it still hasn't officially. I don't think it's been voted in to reopen yet. So we still are waiting for our data to be released. And the BLS has come out and they said yesterday that what they're going to do when the data does get released is they are going to be releasing it almost all at once. Okay, it's going to be an accumulation of data almost all at once. They're going to work to get it out as fast as possible, which means over the next few days we'll see some big data releases randomly. Meaning we have no idea when this is going to come out, and that is going to create some pretty incredible conditions, right? So let's also be aware of that. I don't know when that's going to be, so just understand that there's always a headline risk, okay? But again, nothing today's session. We should be free and clear, so let's move on. On the earnings docket for today's session, by the way, Sway, thank you very much. That is very kind of you, Sway. Much appreciated. Thank you for supporting. Thank you very much. All right, so Sway, appreciate you. On the earnings docket for today's session, nothing, right? Nothing besides the BYND. I know the BYND holders are probably a little bit freaked out, maybe horned up this morning. BYND, huge for Beyond. I mean, this is probably going to be an interesting report. So be aware of that. BYND in the after-hours session today. Besides that, tomorrow you have Circle, you have Cisco, and then Thursday, Disney. So let's dive into our charts. That's not what's important for today's session, okay? Let's jump into the SPY chart. And what I want to do is I want to do a story. I want to talk about the story from yesterday's session. Let's do a story. So basically on the SPY chart, all we did was on Friday, we basically V-shaped on Friday. And then we trapped up all the shorts on Friday session. On our Monday morning, we gapped up into the Monday morning. And we gapped up into supply. And that was the most important thing, was we gapped up, we saw a gap and go, and what did we say about gap and goes? We don't really trade. I don't really trade gap and goes. Okay, it doesn't mean you don't trade gap and goes. It doesn't mean anyone else doesn't trade gap and goes. But I don't like trading gap and goes. The reason why I don't like trading gap and goes is because if you look at yesterday's session, where was the gap and go? The gap and go is right here, actually. Right, it was a break and retest here at 678 for the gap and then the go. And if you look at this yesterday, it wasn't necessarily a bad trade at all, right? Actually was quite a decent trade. If you traded the gap and go yesterday above the PMH, above 678s, you got some decent upside. You actually got $1.30 moving highs. Not a bad trade necessarily, but the gap and go failed, right? The gap and go eventually did push into the overhead supply. And this is what typically happens, right? You have a big overhead supply, which leads to a lot of shorts or a lot of longs trying to get kind of overconfident, and the bull flag turns into a failed bull flag, and you see downside into our session. So I actually took short here, right on this candle right there. That's where I took short yesterday. Not the exact high, not the exact low, but there's right there a decent entry with the stop of the highs, and I got a downside move. Now on SPY yesterday, the key thing that happened, though, was that the gap and go was failed under 678, in which case we saw them move back into 675. And why are these levels so important? Why are these dotted lines so important? Because we didn't really discuss these levels yesterday. Well, the key thing is, 678 was the PMH. So PMH was the pre-market highs, obviously being an important level. And then the 675s, where did this come from? Where the hell is this 675 coming from? Because this was nowhere on our charts yesterday. Well, if you look at the chart for a second, the 675 is basically just the 674, right? It's just a margin of error. Okay, so we basically pulled the train station. We pulled the train into the demand here, which is the train station 674, and we rallied higher off that level. Now I had a hard time kind of guessing where we were going to form that low yesterday. But we knew it was going to be somewhere around 674. That's where we knew this was going to be. But of course, the Monday session where you're collecting that data And now the data has been given to us, right? The data says, hey, 675 is the level. Okay, so we know this morning that what you probably want to do is you see your big red zone over here, the 672.5 to 674. Well, I would argue that we should just readjust this now. The adjustment should be made to encapsulate 674 to 675, and this would actually be my new demand zone, right? So this is my new adjusted new data demand zone, okay? And that's what I'm seeing here. So if we fail back lower today into 675, it's not a big failure, right? Because there's still demand below here, and it's simply just the Monday's lows. So the only like aggressive short on a continuation move lower would be if we fail back below 674. And guys, I'm reading the chat right now, and not a single person is talking, which is freaking me out. Am I live right now? Am I live? Usually we have people like spam in the chat. Hold on a second. What's going on here? Am I live in this pre-market? Am I live? I am live, right? Can we do it? Can we do a live check? Wow, I'm getting no, something's wrong here. Oh, there you guys are. All right, there, I see you guys. All right, cool. We're good. Mena, by the way, Mena, thank you very much, Mena. Very kind of you for supporting. Thank you as always. For some reason, Dad of two. Thank you, Dad of two. Wow, you guys, I'm getting a lot of this today. Much appreciated. That's very kind of you guys. All right, so I'm back. All right, so I was freaked out. I wasn't seeing anything on the SPY chart. Basically, as long as we are holding these demand lows here, it's still an area that you don't want to be short into, right? Even yesterday's session when I shorted the highs, I think me and Rav shorted a little bit earlier, but I shorted like right over here, right? So I got the breakdown move yesterday. And then even when we moved back lower, my first thought process like on live was, where are we going to find the low? Because I wasn't sure where it was going to be. Transparently, I just didn't know. But I knew it was going to be somewhere between 675 and 673. That's where you knew it was going to be. And then if you look at yesterday's price action, this is the best part about trading is all we do is we plot our zones intraday, right? Pre-market. No, not intraday. Pre-market, right? We plot our zones pre-market. And then all you're doing in the 5 minute is you're just looking to see where the candles are, right? And it's really not that complicated. You're looking for a candle like this. This is the candle we're looking for, right? It's really, really not that complicated information here. And if you go back to yesterday's price action, the 5 minute time frame, go back to the chart and then look at where the first pin bar candle was yesterday. It was where? Oh shit, it's right there. Okay, that's what it is. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, doesn't take a Stanford PhD to tell you, hey, this is your long spot yesterday at your demand zone, upside move. You could have longed it again. Look at this 1140 candle. I did right here, right? This is your second long entry, and I bet you it probably worked an upside move, right? This is probably a decent upside trade yesterday. It was, right? Look at that. The retention at demand and big upside. And over here, oh, wait a second, back at supply. You probably don't want to be long there until it does what? Until it fails once, and then now, oh shit, now it's new long entry. You're seeing is maintain, and that's where another long entry comes in. So you can see here, the market maintained and respected levels so beautifully yesterday, and in today's session, the levels are the same thing as they were yesterday, just some new things. The new thing is 675 demand, 674 as your ultra demand, right? Your big demand zone below, but then you have a smaller level here, 678 as your kind of bull bear pivot, and then 680 as your auto level. So lots of levels this morning here in SPY, but there's clarity, right? You don't want to short above 680. If you hold 680, we're going to 685. If you hold 680, we're going to 685. If you lose 680, we're going to 678. If you lose 678, we're going to 675. They're just levels, right? Maybe not the most clarity, but the levels are clear, right? Not clear on the direction, but the levels are clear this morning, and that is all I'm trying to say. Okay, so on the ES chart, you can see here that we are bullish as long as we're holding the 6840s, right? 6840, that big failure level here. See this big failure level here? See this huge big downside move on Thursday? Well, that low, extend that over. Bam, right? This is what it is today. It's 6840, above bull, below bear. Very simple. Boom or boom, right? This morning in the pre-market, it looks more so like boom, right? But maybe that changes. If we fail back below 6840, then we're going to 6820. If we lose 6820, we're going to 6800. That's what I'm seeing this morning. And look at the lows yesterday here. Yes, this is your lows yesterday on the chart, which was 67 85 was our demand zone below, but you see that we formed a low in the middle of that demand. See, we had a big zone here between here and here. Well, look, we formed a low here in that zone, right? And if you look back yesterday on the intraday time frame, where in the zone did we create a wick, right? Where in the zone did we create a wick? And you can see the first wicks that we created were here and here, right? And those are your long entries yesterday. There were some long opportunities here. This one, if you took this trade, the first one, you made some money and then got stopped out. If you took this trade over here, you made some money and then you made a lot more money after that, right? That just shows you that was trade number one any better than trade number two? No, it was not. They're just two independent trades that both could have gone, but the number two went, right? So it just shows you that sometimes you got to take multiple trades to get it to work. And this was your example of that, right? Upside move after holding the demand zone yesterday. Now, today's session here on the ES chart, we're spending way too much time on the ES today. What is it about? It's all about 6840, okay? Upside or downside. On the QQ chart, Qs, you can see Qs, in the midpoint, right? QQQ is actually in the shit zone, right? And I don't like this at all. The reason why is because I have some big demand below and some big supply above. And look where we are right now in the pre-market session. We are in the dead zone, right? We're in the dead zone, otherwise the DZ, and we don't trade here in the dead zone. This is where we go to die as traders. And I don't want that to happen today, right? So I would actually avoid this today's session. We don't want to be long. We don't want to be short back into here. We don't want to be long back into there. So what do? Well, we either trade the channels or we look for it to break out above. And for me, I would prefer us to either break down under the lows here, Monday's lows for downside, or I would prefer an upside break above 623 for upside, right? So either upside breaks or downside breaks. But again, my dead zone is very clearly here. The reason why it's a dead zone is because we're just trading in the middle of yesterday's lows and yesterday's highs. I don't enjoy that, right? And I don't think many of you guys enjoy that either. So be aware of that going into our session here in Qs. Let's move on, guys. Let's go over some tickers today. Let's go over some equities. Let's take a second. Let's look at the chat. Hydrate a little bit. And we are going to dive into it. Okay. What's going on here? What is going on here? Why is you know what it is? I think it's I think my internet is not good today. So everything that's I keep looking at the chat and my chat is disconnecting on my other computer. So that's what's happening. I hope this doesn't happen live today. I think it's because the weather is really bad today. Anyway, let's go over the first equity today's session. Let's talk about AMD. So AMD, we spoke about the 243 breakout. This was our top watch yesterday, and we nailed this, right? Right at the market open, this was a really good trade for me, and I was happy to get something going with trend yesterday. This is my main trade, was basically the break and retest over 243s. This was the first equity we spoke about. We longed it right over here on live, and we got upside moving highs. That was our trade yesterday on AMD. Today's session, we're back at demand here. And it looks, here's my thought process. It looks like shit, right? Yesterday it looked really good. Yesterday's my top watch. Now today's session, ready for this? Bam, right? Don't like it. Moving on, right? If it clears 249, upside. But as of right now, I'm not involved here. My only involvement is going to be either here or there, right? It's either there or here. It either has to break yesterday's highs, the Monday's highs, or pull back to the gap fill level and look for demand at the gap fill level. Anything in between here, dead zone, not involved, right? Dead zone between 249 and 236. Pull back here, long, above here, long. That's all I have here on AMD. Nvidia, on the Nvidia chart, very similar mindset here, okay? You have the 201 supply. Basically, we moved into supply yesterday. We failed supply. We produced a dead zone. The dead zone is simply just here. Everything in the dead zone between 201 and 190, I'm not involved with. I don't like it. It makes no sense to me. If I don't have clarity, I don't trade it. If I don't understand what's happening here and have a clear directional bias, it's a dead zone. And that's what this is for me here on NVIDIA. It's a dead zone between 2015, the almost the highs yesterday. You see the level here, level there, and the highs yesterday around 200. So between really, you could argue the dead zone is not just simply just 201, but it's all the way from 2015 to that high of yesterday, 200 flat, right? 200 flat being your key level of resistance. So I know I have like a little temperature gauge here at this 195, but where I would get involved trading this is either going to be here. It's either going to be we clear back above 201.50, which would be a long entry, right? Or I look for us to pull back to the 190 demand zone for another long entry. But that's all I have here. 190 is my key retention area, which is my gap fill zone. That's where the market can gap fill back into our highs of Friday session. I look for longs there. But that's all I have here on this Nvidia chart. Okay, let's move on. Let's go for SMH. On the SMH chart, here we are holding well, right? But you notice something, that this chart didn't give you full gap fill. Yesterday's session, I spoke about what? I said there's 358 supply, and there's a gap fill down below 351. We did not gap fill in SMH yet. I still think that semis need to fill the gap. I think this is not a big thing to ask for. Go to your semiconductors today session, right? Go to your AMD, go to your Nvidia, go to your TSM, go to your Avgo, right? Go to these other semi names and look at where the gaps are. Look at AMD for a second. Look at the AMD gap. AMD's gap is at 236. It's gonna fill. I think it's gonna fill. I think if I were a betting man, I would say this is probably an 80% chance today that an 80% chance this week we go back to fill a 236 gap fill, right? Now, don't go full port on that idea, right? Don't go crazy on that idea, but I think that we do need to fill the gap below. And the gap below is at 236 today in AMD. And that's where longs get involved here. That's where I would be involved on a long side move. But as of right now, I would expect that move to happen. Even Nvidia, same idea. Nvidia, gap must fill. Even Avgo, right? Go to Avgo for a second. Take a gander to Avgo, right? Small gap to fill, but it's right there. The gap must fill. And I do think it's going to happen. Even TSM, look at the TSM chart. TSM, same idea. Key demand. It's right there. Gap below 288. Let's look for these gaps to fill today on the SMH. And if it does happen, that's where you look for longs back, right? 351, 350. That's your long spot on the SMH. I'm looking for that to happen here. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Apple chart. Apple is doing something very clear, right? You can see here, bam, bam, bam. New levels, right? Monday is a data session, and we now have been given the data. And let's not make a mistake here. The new data tells us what? Data says bam, right? Don't be a Muppet. Don't be a Muppet and long over here. Don't be a Muppet and long over here. Don't be a Muppet and long over here. Don't do it today, right? If this happens and it rallies higher into a pop here, don't just start longing back into the highs because bam, look at what happened yesterday's session on Monday. Look at Monday's session. Look at this chart. Go to the 5-minute chart here. You see what happened. As soon as we popped into the supply zone, we popped above the highs of our Friday session, fell back below the highs, big downside. If you're looking for upside, you want to see us clear back above the upside moves. If we back above the highs of our Monday's upside move, rather. And if we do that, then there is some consistent upside here in Apple. I do like this chart, but it's got to be above those previous sets of highs. Okay, let's move on. And by the way, Meta, I actually agree with Meta's statement. I actually agree with that a lot. That to me is the best mentorship. The best mentorship you can ever pay for is a free one, and it is just come to pre-markets and trade, right? Now, granted, I do mentorship, but I don't do it anymore. I'm not taking many more people, and I wouldn't recommend it either. Even if I was doing it, I wouldn't recommend it. I actually don't recommend it because the problem with it is you use a lot to learn on your own, right? And granted, mentorships do help, right? But it'll fast track it. But there's a lot to learn on your own, and you guys can all do that. Especially coming to these pre-markets, there's a lot to learn. Now, for some people, I understand it makes sense, but it is a lot. And that's why I don't really do it very often. And when I do it, I only do it with a few people because it is very time intensive, and I care about the people I work with, and so it's not just like a group session and stuff like that. They're just one-on-ones. So on Amazon's chart, which tends to be more successful. On Amazon's chart, 250 is your key level today. Okay, you saw it yesterday's session. 250 is your very big bull bear pivot. We moved higher into that level, but couldn't hold above it. Right? You saw this. We could not hold above the 250, and we fell back below. Now today's session here, if I'm looking for anything on Amazon, I will look for the 250 break to happen, which still may happen. It still may happen, but again, it has to clear and hold above the 250s. If it can, upside back into highs again. So watching 250 break. If it does happen, look for that breakout trade back into the upside move, right? Likewise, we have 245 as your demand zone below. If you're looking for a frothy entry on Amazon, you could still. Now here's the argument here. This I agree with, right? This is like 10 out of 10, right? 10 out of 10 here. I like this, by all means, sure. But there is an argument that Yesterday on Monday's session in the pre-market, we said, guys, watch the 245 demand bounce. Now, if you look back at yesterday's price action, look back at yesterday's intraday price action, and look at where we formed the low yesterday. I want you just to go back and take a look at where we formed that low. We formed a low around the 245.60s. So if you view this, this is actually very close to our demand. Very close, like 60 cents away, right? 60 cents away. Is that considered a gap fill? I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's enough. I think some traders would say yes. I think some traders would say no. That's why I don't think that this level, this 245, I don't think is as cut and dry as the break below 250. It's still valid here. I would still watch the 245 demand bounce, but I don't think it's going to be as sexy as yesterday's. I think if it pulls back and you see some very clear confirmation, maybe this, you see very clear fail back below a reclaim, then I look for upside move, right? So again, this is where I would be involved here on Amazon transparently, right? I'd be more involved in a move like this because we bounced so close to it yesterday's session. Again, do what you want on this one. This is the where. The where is right here. I shouldn't even be I should not even be talking about that, right? 245 is your where today. That's your demand zone. 250 is your breakout today. Okay, that's what Amazon's doing this session, right? Amazon's strong. Let's move on. Let's go over a few more names. Let's go over Tesla. Tesla relative weakness. So yesterday off the open, I said Tesla is weak, and Tesla is, guys. I'm not doing mentorships. No mentorships for me for the whole of this year. I have current mentees that I have to focus on. I'm sorry, but there's gonna be no mentorships, and I wouldn't do it anyway, right? Maybe next year we'll do something, but I would highly recommend you just come to pre-markets. There's a lot you can learn. There's a shit ton you can learn here, and the best part is it's free, right? So let's move on. Tesla downside. It looks good, right? I can see this here. And here's the thing. Tesla is guided by the 450s and the 440s. As long as we're under 450, I don't really have any intention of going long here. In fact, I think that the only long trade you'd have is here. And this seems far-fetched. I don't think this is going to happen. But if it does happen, this is your long side trade. Likewise, I would completely inverse that idea. And I would say if we can fail back below 440, I'm looking for shorts on the downside play. So I'm looking for us to break down under 440. If we do clear 440, I'm looking for the move back in 433. So that's my main watch today's session is under 440. If we clear 440, looking for the move back into 434, 433. Again, weak chart yesterday. Look at the failures of 440 yesterday. The same thing that happened yesterday, I think it happened today here in Tesla if we can fail back under that 440 level. I want to see some actual closures below. And if we see closures below, then I'm looking for downside back into these lows here at 433. Michael, the best way to learn charting is, again, the pre-markets, right? Come to the pre-markets, compare your levels to my levels, see if there's any discrepancies and try to fix it, right? That's what I would say. The best thing you can do is try to show up to the pre-markets having your levels already drawn and compare them to mine. That would be my best advice for technical analysis, okay? Let's move on. We have a few more minutes. We have 3 minutes left. Let's go over SoFi. SoFi, insane. I wish everyone says this, right? But I wish I would have had more shares. I wish I would have bought more shares at these lows. We bought these on Friday morning. We bought SoFi, and I cannot believe it that it's moved this much in one session. Basically 2 sessions now. So from 26 to where we are now is what, like 17, 18% in just 2 days of price action. I only have starters here, so I'm not selling. I'm looking for a break into the red zone to start selling. But again, I don't care if it sells back lower, because if it sells back lower, I'll buy more, right? So that's my viewpoint here on this chart. But you can see holding trend line beautifully, but we're back in supply now, right? This is where supply came in last time. I have no reason to believe this time is going to be anything different. But if it does, and it clears out, then I'm looking to trim into the T-zone, right? That's a T-zone here above 32.5, okay? Let's move on. Let's go over Palantir. Mike had a good short yesterday in Palantir, but it did end up. What is my English today? I feel like I'm all over the place. It did end up holding the 188s, right? So I think he shorted the 192s and 193s, maybe higher. But he shorted some over here, right, and got some downside. But it was only downside back into demand, and that was a key thing that happened yesterday across the market. Is supply rejections came in, but we came back into the 188 level. And this was actually your 188 break and retest. You could have been a bull yesterday on Palantir as well, right? Look at the 188 break and retest. That actually was a phenomenal trade, right? Look at the 188 hold. Look at the retention there. Look at the 5-minute retention there. And today's session, what's it all about? It's all about the 188s today, right? Nothing different from yesterday. It's all about the 188s. And why is 188 so important? Look at the 15-minute chart. Look how important 188 is. You can see 188, big, 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 big level, right? Today's session, 188 above bull, below bear. Very simple level here on Palantir. Okay, guys, we have 1,000 people here pre-market. We have 450 likes. Get the like count up. It's 9:05. I'll go over one last ticker. But we gotta get the likes up because that's ridiculous. Let's go over one more. Let's go over Meta and Coinbase. Two more. Meta chart bouncing back after holding 600. Still not doing much, guys. I mean, look, 646 is the big reclaim level. If we can reclaim 646, then I think we get more consistent upside here. 646, very clear inflection point. Above 646, back into 678. But as of right now, 646 is your big, big, colossal zone here. This is the level we must reclaim for consistent upside. Coinbase holding up, right? Coinbase is holding up here. It's holding up at the gap fill level, and you can see this is your bull bear pivot. It's right in front of us, right? This is your bull bear pivot. It's just a little bit of a bull flag into your bull bear pivot, right? Perhaps that's what it is. So let's understand that. As long as we are above this 310 level, bullish. Below 310, bearish. If you break below 310, we're going back in at 290, right? If you hold 310, we're going back in at 344. That's all it is today, right? It's either this happens, or it's either this happens, upside, or this happens, downside. Very clear inflection point today on our Monday session. Smoke some. You make this seem so simple, but I struggle my own. It's not complicated. The levels are not complicated. It's just most of us can do this. It's just the intraday, we struggle trading the intraday price action. We struggle trading those 5-minute candles. We struggle trading the hourly candles. But at the end, the charts are not that complicated. And if you look back at yesterday's session, everything is guided by the charts. It's just sometimes we get in our heads when we trade these intraday price action. Guys, that's all it is. I'll see you all for live trading. Have a happy and safe trading session. Thank you all for joining in, and I'll see you guys all there. Bye, guys.